preschool teacher. And it is an unusual scenario to be giving a talk to the person that taught you how to blow your nose. She literally did. I always had boogers. So I got an email that was looking for someone to do Ed Talk. And I love TED Talks, and I thought, this is absolutely perfect for me. This is like a TED Talk with the T amputated. Right? So I was very excited because life is going absolutely incredibly for me, and I want to share why. And then I immediately got a phone call from Bob saying, yeah, we want to choose you. And he used a word that doesn't usually get associated with me. He said, you seem polished. And I'm more of a caveman, more of a bull in the china shop kind of thing. The only time that I think you could use polish for me is when I deep clean my prosthetic leg. And you have to laugh at that to be ADA compliant. I know it's a terrible joke, but that's what we got. So then afterwards, after the excitement, and some of you have heard me say the same thing before, it's such a challenge to speak in front of your peers and the people that you look up to, your mentors, your preschool teacher, you know, people that have taught you so much. It's a challenge, but every time I feel that feeling, I remember that I got a 1/4-ton bench press, right? He spotted me the other day. And that I was the former WFC heavyweight champion, so even if this goes terribly, I don't think anyone's going to be brave enough to tell me about it. That gives me a lot of confidence. So I kind of want to describe to you a triangle. 3 parts of my life that are pulling me equally and keeping me centered on this mission that I have. The first is a combination of having my leg amputated, coaching wrestling almost 20 years at the high school level, and my athletic career. When I woke up in the hospital, I had tied most of my identity rigidly to the idea that I was an athlete. And I had no idea what my self-worth was going to be. And I was laying there having dark thoughts, thinking I may never be pulling the wagon. I may always be a burden. I may always be on the sidelines. And about 2 months after the surgery, I was invited to be the assistant coach on the wrestling team. And I immediately realized that those dark thoughts were wasted energy. I thought maybe my life would be less than, but I found out how incredibly wrong I was. Those kids were immediately more motivated, and I had more credibility than I ever would have had I not had a visual encumbrance. To see me giving my time towards their goals inspired them at a level I never would have been able to, and me working towards my own goals motivated them to work alongside me. And I was relearning the sport while I was teaching it to them. And it was an amazing experience, and it's something that has built on itself over and over. Every time I do something, people are motivated, I connect with more people, then I'm motivated by that fact that I can motivate people with what my challenge is. I also learned how much sports influenced my ability to handle this situation, and particularly wrestling. So I focused on using that aspect of wrestling as a tool to help populate the world with people that had similar core values as me. And when you are in a crisis, you need your core values. When everything is going well, you don't need it. So we are simulating in sports and in school, we're simulating the problems that we're going to encounter. And we're teaching them how to use those core values to apply to it. So for our wrestling program, first is adaptability. I mean, I'm literally an adaptive athlete. Who would I be if I wasn't preaching that, right? Being able to redirect with meaningful purpose in changing circumstances. I mean, we just went through COVID. We have snowpocalypse. We have all of those things. And if we can adapt to those and still work towards our goals, that's the most valuable thing we can get out of those challenges. Then next, it's integrity. Doing the right thing when nobody's looking. You know, I could have very easily exaggerated the effect that having one leg was having on me. I could have been angry at the world, but I chose to see how much I could contribute. And I chose to see how much positive impact I could make. And I choose to do the right thing as many chances as I get, and I choose to teach the kids to be self-directed in that area and do the right thing when we're not looking, when your coach isn't watching, when your teacher's not there, when your parents aren't looking. Then next, mental toughness. The ability to focus on the light, that sunlight right up there, through the dark times in your brain is so valuable. And you don't realize how much you need that until you really hit one of those dips. And What we're doing in school, in sports, and all of the things that we do is we're teaching these kids to be mentally tough enough to stay focused on that positive part, because the dips are inevitable. And then the last thing, most importantly, is generosity. Okay? Like, for example, me graciously giving you my time and my wisdom tonight. Right? Generosity. When I was at my lowest was right after I lost my leg. And then I was given the opportunity to give. And that completely changed the trajectory of where I would have probably been headed. Right? So when we give, when we're at our darkest, it inspires the people that we're giving to at a much higher degree. So that leads to the next part. Both to work with coaching and because I recognized the kids that I wanted to deal with, I became the OCR supervisor. And I immediately recognized how many kids are not fitting in, and how many kids at that age, heartbreakingly, have already given up on themselves, or given up on what they want to do, or given up on having a positive life. And it's crushing to see that. And there's obviously positive stories, but there's so few interventive measures at that point for some of those people that you just can already see their future, and it's brutal. So I decided and was presented with an opportunity, instead of being on the punitive side of that, to be on the preventative side. And that's where I'm at now. So as I was mentioned, I now work with Marcella Foundation, and that spawned because they gave a grant to Momentum Film so that we could get it edited and on PBS. The story is mainly about Chris Kokoris, who was a fighter that I coached. And I always felt it on my heart to give him the message that we're simulating problems. We're trying to train for when something terrible happens. It's a message I give to everybody, all the kids in the OCR room, on the wrestling mat. But to him, I always especially felt it. And then he was in a horrible car wreck. He was at the pinnacle of amateur MMA and then was crushed all the way down. Lost his girlfriend, lost his dog, his body was shredded, and he immediately had it in his mind, the second he woke up, that he was going to get back in the cage and fight. And it was such a validating experience for me to see somebody that I had coached say, he called me first guy he called was me, to say, hey, you were getting me ready for this, let's do it, let's get back in the cage. You have no idea how validating that was, and that's why I feel so compelled to share that all of us are doing that. We're preparing these kids for when they have a massive challenge. So the film is about his story and about me coaching him through it. And it has given me an opportunity to increase my ability to use that tool of giving those core values. And one thing I realized in this process is, if you think you can do more, if you ever have that thought, there's more I can do, especially for other people, you're absolutely right. There's 100% more that you can do. And I wasn't doing enough, right? And almost none of us are. Almost none of us are doing enough. Because the next part of that thing with Momentum is, it was a lot of time and effort and energy that went into that project. And I wanted to make sure that that was beneficial to the kids in our district and the kids who the story was because of my work with them, right? So what I did was arrange for the schools to watch it. And then I sent out a Google form that had multiple questions, but primarily the questions were, what is your biggest goal that you won't let anything stop you from? And what's your biggest challenge that'll make your story great? And some very interesting things came out of this. First, for the goals, it was incredible. Some of the most aspirational things you can imagine, creative, ambitious, wide-ranging series of goals. And the positive side of that is we have kids who really are seeking to be great. But the crazy side is these are kids I worked with every single day that I had no idea they had these interests or these goals or these ambitions. And I obviously wasn't doing enough to help them get to that, because they would have told me we would have been working on it already, because they're exciting. And then the next, okay, get your handkerchiefs out. The next part is the challenge. It's eating at me. It broke my heart. The things these kids wrote, man, it almost makes me cry, because kids I knew extremely well. They put every sad thing you can imagine a kid writing, I have it on a spreadsheet. drug abuse, alcohol abuse, terrible situations at home, depression, anxiety, fear, all these things that we don't want our kids to feel, man, we do not. And all these things that Chris felt that he's open. So now I'm presented with this opportunity to get this message out. And these kids are so open after they watch this film and after they hear Chris and I talk that it's just a tremendous blessing. So I just want to kind of end with a little bit of a sort of a call to action. Okay, number one is, like I said, if you think you can do more, you can do more. Have generosity as one of your core values. There's things we can give. We're in an amazing place. Look at this beautiful golf course. You have an incredible speaker, as I already said, right here for you. You're going to get to mingle with me afterwards. Okay? Normally I charge so much for that. I'm going to give you that for free. Okay, and then I have worked with Marcella Foundation. You can watch Momentum Film. I'm building this Momentum Mentors program and a bunch of other things. I have really fresh, off-the-press business cards. So if you want to find me, you can find me and I'll toss you one of those. And then the last thing is, all of us, every single one of us, has a challenge. Okay, mine is awesome because it's robotic and people can see it immediately. But every single one of us, the key takeaway from those kids is that they felt alone, or they felt like they're the only one with that problem, or that there was no solution to their problem. And it's because all of us are not brave enough to share, to say what our problems were, to show the kids that we all feel those emotions. We all have that inside of us, right? We all have felt every single emotion that a human has felt. And these kids don't think that. They think they're the only one feeling that. So I want you to be brave enough to expose your challenges like those kids were. Be brave enough to use your reason for succeeding. All of you are very successful for being here. That's why I was worried to talk, okay? Now, what you need to do is be brave with that and share your reason for why, what you overcame and the dark times you had, so that the kids know it, so they don't feel alone. And since you love this speech so much, find me afterwards and we will chat more. I have so much more to say, but my time limit is hit. You can't afford the extra 10 minutes. All right, thank you.